You invade a sovereign nation, you take its president out in a helicopter, and you announce to the world that you're going to run that country until you shoulder a lot of responsibility that seems unnecessary to me.
Well, you got any really good funny stories? And he's like, well, this line of work doesn't really involve a lot of funny stories. He's kind of offended.
Welcome to Bourbon and Rum, the podcast dedicated to civil conversation. I'm Kent, I like rum, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle, I like bourbon. I tend to be a little more conservative. We're brothers talking politics over bourbon and rum.
What are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking a bottle I picked up before the holidays. It is a distillery called Rare Character, and they source whiskey from other places, and they get exceptional stuff and really interesting things. And they got this, the liquor store, my local liquor store got this before the holidays. They did a barrel pick, and it's a single barrel American light whiskey. It's not bourbon, because there's a couple qualifications it doesn't meet, one of which is it originally was distilled at a higher proof than 160, and it's not using new American charred barrels, it's using used American charred barrels. But it's bourbon juice that they sourced from MGP, but the reason they put it in used barrels is they age it it's almost 21 years in a barrel. And it's 140 proof. So it is a little stout, but it's amazing how 140 proof after 20 years doesn't taste that bad. So I may have to watch my consumption. What are you drinking on?
Hate to be dull. I'm drinking lemonade today. Just didn't get around to pouring a drink, and it's the middle of the afternoon, and so.
So what are you trying to say? It's middle.
Yeah,
of the
well,
afternoon,
I'm just
drinking bourbon.
Throwing no shade to the drinkers among us, but lemonade for me today.
All right.
Well, we are talking just a day after the invasion of. How are we going to characterize this? Was this an invasion of Venezuela, or was this a police action?
I heard it
give me your
characterized as a law enforcement action, an arrest of a fugitive. But yeah, this would be a good one to dive into.
Do we police act law enforcement? I didn't realize that we had police jurisdiction over the entire nation of Venezuela.
Well, actually, I got a guy I graduated with. We were at our 20-year reunion, and I got to talking to this guy, and I didn't even realize these folks existed, because I always figured people go into other countries and arrest people are CIA, but they're FBI. And this guy worked for the FBI, and he would go, he had some really good stories, actually, but he'd been to some pretty precarious places where he would execute search warrants. And he would go in with the military or the CIA or whoever, but the FBI is who they send to actually execute. In this case, FBI folks were part of the whole raid, which is this guy, I don't know.
Was he on the job, or?
I wonder. I don't know, but man, he had some, I might have mentioned him in a previous podcast, but man, he had some crazy stories. A side note, I was like, so he's telling me about all this, and we're just chit-chatting, and I was like, well, you got any really good funny stories? And he's like, well, this line of work doesn't really involve a lot of funny stories. He's kind of offended. But I digress. Yeah, I think they were certainly involved.
Well, for the record, I'm going to find fault and I'm going to pick at things. It's hard to argue that, Maduro wasn't a bad guy. I do wonder, two questions. Is it Do we need to do this? Was this necessary? Number one. Number two, if we did, I guess maybe that answers the second question, but that you invade a sovereign nation, you take its president out in a helicopter, and you announce to the world that you're going to run that country until you shoulder a lot of responsibility that seems unnecessary to me and maybe not desirable.
Yeah. Well, and that is really interested in unpacking this with you. I've read up on it a fair amount. And I think it's one of the, to me, in a nutshell, it's going to be one of those things that 10 years from now is either going to be a genius move or a really bad idea. And possibly somewhere in between. But yeah, I would say it's completely unprecedented. Same thing happened actually like 36 years ago to the day in Panama with Manuel Noriega.
I would say Noriega, sure.
But I think, so here's my assessment. I see on the positive side, I see obviously, I've known people in Venezuela. I worked with a guy whose parents came here from Venezuela, and he had grandparents that he talked to every day in Venezuela. And I mean, Venezuelans throughout the world are pretty happy about this so far. So I certainly think he was a bad guy, needed to go. So I don't think there's a lot of argument about that. I like your character, I like your question about did we have to do it now? But there's that element of it. I think. So I think you're taking out a bad actor. I think there's a possibility for peace to develop with that actor, which as a country has been problematic in a lot of different areas, not just drugs, but geopolitically. And then, what does that mean for the greater, I think one of the other benefits potentially is, you're putting dictators on notice that, we may go to some extravagant means to oust you. So I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing to put that out there. We can certainly argue the legality of that, but I think having people know that they're on notice isn't a bad thing. I think, as I look at this, my concern is several concerns, but one is like you take out this guy. Well, you start reading through some details about that country. I mean, yeah, he's a bad dude, but he's got henchmen in that government also that aren't great dudes either, or gals. And so, you hope, yes, you take out the wicked witch and everybody capitulates and everything goes great, but the next guy might suck worse than him,
Yeah. I don't know if you would agree. I think you probably wouldn't agree with me. I think the drugs is the most transparent, like fake news that I've ever heard. I've said this before. If we don't want drugs imported to our country, people ought to quit buying them.
Well, I think
moreover, what's that?
Go ahead. Let me let you finish.
Well, and then I don't know that Venezuela is, okay. Oh, we've closed down the Venezuela pipeline of drugs. There are lots of other avenues by which things come into the country. So I don't think drugs are the thing. And I wish we would just be honest that it's about oil. And you could make a case to me that oil is worthy of doing things that are of dubious legality, but at least admit that's what it's about. I think the drugs is nonsense.
I guess to me the most compelling argument isn't drugs or oil. It's a totalitarian bad actor, tormenting his people and, destroying this nation. And I just think of, again, more from understanding people that are there, what a total mess and humanitarian disaster Venezuela has been. So to me, that is the best part of this. To me, is that you're potentially creating the pathway for this country that's been devastated for the last 30 years to turn things around. That's exciting to me. I think from a drug standpoint, I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. So if you look at the drug trade, cocaine is primarily manufactured in Colombia, but Venezuela is a major thoroughfare for the cocaine, both to Europe and to the United States, over the sea and through diplomatic channels. If you read the indictment of Maduro, there's a lot of evidence in there about him utilizing government resources to move drugs to other countries.
The courier pouch.
Well, they made a diplomatic visit to Mexico, and they unloaded 16 pallets from the back of the presidential plane. There's from the data that I saw, Venezuela is responsible for 15 to 20% of the global drug movement. So they're not making it, but they're moving it everywhere. Now, I think you could make an argument, and I don't know if this bodes well for whoever or what, but I think you can make the argument, and if I set this up, I didn't think you'll disagree with it completely. I don't think, if you look at the targets of how to eliminate the drug trade, and again, your point is we should just get people to stop taking drugs. I really do think that funneling cheap drugs into this country is a problem, and it's a demand and a supply problem. But if you're going to take out the supply of drugs, you could certainly say that Maduro was down the list of the most important targets on that list. If you wanted to go with the top target, well, let's launch a ground invasion of Mexico to go against the cartel. I think what made Maduro attractive is he is the most accessible. If you made a list of the top 25 bad actor people / organizations involved in the global drug trade, he's an easy pick. So whether that's politically expedient or whether it's just like, hey, here's somebody we could pull out and make a difference and we could get him. To me, it's part of the justification could be that it was an easy get from that standpoint. And that could be good or bad depending on your perspective.
Yeah, you're going to find I will give no love lost to Maduro. It's fine. And I knew a guy too, similar situation, who talked about the horror of the country and trying to get his family out, and so yeah, all of that's fair. I don't know, tell the truth, to say that's why we're doing it. It just I don't know, the drug thing just seems like it seems flimsy to me. It really does. Even if it's not that terrible an idea to do it, if your idea is, if the reason to do it is strong enough, use the real reason to do it, not the made up thing.
We sent, which regardless of your opinion on this, it is a pretty incredible military endeavor that you send a few helicopters and jets down there and you're able to infiltrate a guy's compound and pull him out with zero casualties. But I think that, to me, tells me why this is, because for as much of a uproar as there is of going into Venezuela and snatching Maduro, I think sending, the 82nd Airborne into Mexico to take out the cartels would also probably create a bit of a uproar.
No, I agree. Again, no argument with that. I just you look at the landscape of problems that we've got to fix, and this really, honestly, when I woke up Friday morning, I wasn't thinking, oh Lord, if only we could get Maduro under control. All of my problems in life would be eased up. It just seems low on the list to me.
Yeah.
Not that it's wrong or bad, but and so I'm skeptical. Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, and my skepticism isn't so much of why we do it. Like I said, I think there's benefit to it. I'm just more fearful of, what's next. I mean, if you could get that Nobel Peace Prize winner, basically the winner of the last election, and you can get her in the government and to take over and get rid of the bad guys, man, awesome. But
Right.
Maduro's just one dude we talk about that all the time about, Hitler, yeah, horrible guy, but surrounded by a bunch of assholes too. It's like, what are we going to do about all the assholes surrounding Maduro?
So Trump says yesterday, the United States is going to run Venezuela till we sort that out. Is this a case, serious question, is this a case of take Trump seriously or literally? I mean, I feel like that's just a shoot from the hip move. That's really risky territory, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that means exactly, and I'm equally skeptical of that. I mean, I certainly, I like the idea of Pete Hegseth was asked about it, and he said, well, no, this is the opposite of Iraq, and day one, I agree with that. And if we could have eliminated Saddam Hussein and snatched him out of his presidential palace and avoided, thousands of casualties and years of war, hey, yeah, I'm all in. But I don't know that it works that easily. And, short of having boots on the ground, I don't think we're running the place. What they've said, and I saw Marco Rubio on Face the Nation, I think it was Face the Nation, Meet the Press, whatever ABC is. Anyways, he was on, and his characterization of running the country is basically it's a blockade, and we've set up vessels to blockade the country, and we're going to use that leverage to get them to do what we want them to do. And I'm like, well, it's not exactly running the country. I mean, yeah, you could, with an effective blockade, you probably do have some leverage there, but these jackasses that are in charge are still in charge,
Right. Insofar as one of the reasons for doing it was to liberate the oppressed people of Venezuela. I mean, I hope we have a bigger plan than just blockading the place. If this triggers a famine or other humanitarian crises in Venezuela,
that train's left the station. There's been a famine there for the last 20 years but yeah, I mean,
well, you know what I mean. Again, I'm not just trying to be pissy about this, but like, okay, we took this action, and by doing that, you either leave it in the hands of whichever of his cronies is the one able to muscle their way to the top, or you follow through on it and you do ensure that the rightful winner of the election, but how are you going to do that without troops? And I mean, is America supportive of that?
That's kind of where I was at from either this, 10 years from now, this is going to look great or it's going to look horrible, because I feel like, yeah, hopefully there's more in the playbook than just a blockade. But at the same time, I think our lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan are, if we could have done something more surgical and, less troops on the ground, and even if you hadn't achieved all your objectives, achieved some of them, that's a better deal for America than, boots on the ground in some foreign country. So, but I think it's a question of, will the measures work, or to your point, does this make it worse? And that's the part that's, I like the fact that we didn't start with 100,000 troops in Caracas. Okay, great, but okay, what's next, and how's this going to go down?
Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful. I just, when you take action like this, you do shoulder some responsibility, and yeah, it was pretty bad there before, and hopefully it's going to be better. But
I did laugh. Rubio's on the Face the Nation, and he's like, we got it, and they've been stealing the oil, and all the money's just gone to a few individuals who are billionaires. And I'm like, now it's going to go to the leaders of ExxonMobil, Chevron, and like, okay, I don't know that the common man is going to benefit, but I mean, to their point, I mean, the place has enough oil wealth; they could all be living like Saudi Arabia if they
True.
shared it with people, and there are people that do that. So I mean, it's not inconceivable, but
Yeah. Not to belabor this, backing up a little bit, if in 10 years it looks like a genius move, what does that mean? How would I know what a disaster in 10 years looks like. What would your best case scenario be?
I think the best case scenario would be, a return to a, relatively stable, relatively uncorrupt. I say relatively because I don't know that any place in South America is particularly free of corruption. But if the place looked like Chile or Brazil geopolitically in the next 10 years, I think that's a huge win. I think this could be looked back on as 1989 in East Germany. That's what I hope it turns out to be. Not, the situation in Iraq right now, where it's just a war torn for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. Yeah, I don't have too much to argue with you on this one. I've got my concerns and doubts.
What's it going to do to the price of your Venezuelan rum, Kent?
Yeah, but the beauty of that is that I'm quite capable of pivoting to a Colombian or Panamanian product.
Yeah.
So I don't know that our listeners know, we didn't mention this, but as we record this, I'm 4 days out from getting on a plane to Grenada, which is the second nearest nation to Venezuela in the Caribbean. So our trip will be like 800 miles from, I think it's 800 miles from Caracas.
Well, if they're lacking on getting people down there, we could volunteer you to the Trump administration. You could be the next envoy to go down there and negotiate with the vice president.
Probably wouldn't be too welcome to me. And plus, one of the expenditures for the trip I've had is little Canadian flag patches to sew onto all of my luggage.
No, I'm Canadian. Trust me. I saw something like, I don't know, they had a phone call like a week ago or something. And it was, Maduro was like, yeah, it was a great call or something. He was explaining in the back of a limo somewhere. Strange deal.
So I will admit that I'm completely uninformed on this. All I know about this is literally the text of notifications on my phone because I didn't even read any of the articles. So they snatched him with a helicopter. Where did they stage the helicopters from?
The Iwo Jima, the USS Iwo Jima,
Okay.
was 200 kilometers away, probably not far from where you're going to be sailing your yacht. Yeah, they I guess they said they went into the presidential compound and they fired a few, they brought in like a armada of helicopters like CH-47s, HH-60s. They had F-35s that launched from the aircraft carrier as well. So they dropped a few, munitions, to security and some of the other areas where they're concerned about. And then they landed the Delta Force in the compound, and they ran into where he was staying. They had, I think, pretty good intelligence from the CIA on the ground, and they showed up. And apparently, he and the wife were headed for their escape room, or whatever, the security room, and they were able to run in there and snag him. And then they pulled him out. They put him on the Iwo Jima, and then they they were arraigned. I think they're getting arraigned tomorrow morning in New York, but they're at the Brooklyn Detention Center as of now.
So did they fly them? Just curious, like how does that go? Did they land them on the deck of the ship? Then did they fly them somehow from the ship to? They must have staged them somewhere to put them on an aircraft that would reach New York.
Yeah.
I'm just interested how that played out.
Yeah, I would be interested. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they could have quite easily launched a. There's passenger planes they could launch from a carrier as well, so they could have put them in something and then moved them over to a base someplace and put them on a jet.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know what the route was. Just out of curiosity, how would you do that? Is that something? Because, like, I don't know. Like, the thing that leaps to mind is probably Puerto Rico as or I guess Guantanamo, maybe. Hey.
Yeah, maybe.
That might be where you could get in and out of.
Yeah, the people said that they flew them into Stewart Air National Guard Base in upstate New York, but they would have. I don't know where they would have. Yeah. Not really any word on how they got from the Iwo Jima to the base.
Yeah. How do you think this is going to resonate with the MAGA base has had a pretty, one of the critiques that I've read, and this isn't just me being pissy, but like, the America First isolationist wing of the MAGA tribe is pretty significant, pretty prominent. I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene, condemning it because this isn't looking out for America. I mean, you can do the gymnastics all you want, but do you think people are going to buy that? I mean,
no, I think you're right. I think there's probably going to be a lot of people questioning it. And again, I think it comes down to what's next. If you can extract the guy and be on your merry way, and somehow with some pressure and this, that, or the other thing, get them doing their own thing, great. If it involves deploying troops to Venezuela, I think he's going to lose everybody. Nobody's up for that,
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
I was going to text you a smart aleck text of, it's a bad week for dictators, because, I mean, the other big news is the protests in Tehran. I don't know, did you see they're calling it the Tehranman Square or something moment? There was a moment where there's a protester and he's kind of like just sitting there peacefully, and there's a row of policemen coming after him. So those are pretty unprecedented riots that you haven't seen in a while.
My preference would be that we let that play out on its own.
Yeah.
My recommendation, if anybody's listening, is, one dubiously legal foreign intervention at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've already been to Iran once already.
Yeah. Well, we dropped some bombs. It's, I don't know, just kind of zooming out, it really is an interesting thing, because kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. What are your options? Pick generic dictatorship hostile to the United States' interest. What do you do? Well, we've seen the kind of some of the spectrum. You can run the B-2 runs out of Whiteman and do the long haul around and drop some bombs and go home, which has a really low risk of entanglement for us. But honestly, even with really heavy-duty ordnance, a lot of the stuff that you want to get, you're not going to get bombing from, at altitude. Or you go in and you pluck somebody out, you roll in the dice on social unrest and humanitarian issues there, or you go in, what is the risk reward and the payoff versus entanglement equation's pretty interesting, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, what was the kind of the playbook was more the Reagan, what they call it, the Weinberger doctrine of, and then kind of adopted as a Cheney doctrine that, you only employ military force if there's something that substantially threatens the sovereignty or peace of the United States. And if you do that, you go in with overwhelming, firepower and annihilate the enemy. And then once you meet your objectives, you leave. And that, to me, that was Desert Storm.
Right.
Textbook example. But I don't know that, part of this is like, part of all these foreign engagements are also, I think to a degree, our leaders, our presidents, namely, because basically since the Korean War, there hasn't been a declaration of war. They're kind of wanting to meet their objectives, and can I do it? I don't want to declare war. I don't want to go that far, but I want to, fix this or fix that. And you can make the argument: is that really even do any of these foreign entanglements actually make sense?
I'm going to pull a clip to give to the producer to link on the show notes. I don't know if you ever watched The West Wing, which was just one of the great shows of all time. But there's a really cool scene in The West Wing when Martin Sheen, the new president, wants to hit back at something. I can't remember what the background is. And he's in the Situation Room, and the generals are kind of like, well, here's our option. We can do this. And he gets so mad. He's like, you offered me up, like they did this to us, and we're going to go like blow up a couple of things, and then, this is how it's going to go back and forth. And he's like, I want to go in and I want to send a message that you don't mess with Americans, and we do all this. And the generals are all like, yeah, okay. So he comes back down, and they've got like a plan B. It's a pretty, it's a full-on invasion. And then they keep going, and then they're like, and then we will have, 50,000 civilian casualties, and we'll have, we'll do it if you want, boss. Right. But these are all the things. And it's just a really interesting, from a TV standpoint, but a portrayal of that balance that you have to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you really took that argument to the extreme, though, you'd basically be an isolationist. You'd say, we're not going to get involved. We're not going to send troops anywhere. We're not going to do anything unless it's a threat. And, I think one of the arguments is if you wait to do anything militarily until it's a substantial threat, well, you may be too late to the party. Like you could have done some pinpricks or some other stuff first to try to set yourself up. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure even Reagan didn't necessarily follow that game plan. Well, and oddly, we talk about what a success Desert Storm was, but it wasn't a declared war. It never went to Congress. I mean, they talked. There are certainly notifications and such, but it's all been the president doing his own thing, essentially. This whole bit about, or we're going to declare war on somebody and we're going to debate it in Congress. Like, I mean, is that even a viable plan? Because, okay, you debate it in Congress. Well, they know we're invading them. I mean, it's like, so much for the element of surprise. I mean, like, how does that, happen in World War II? Okay. I don't think Korea was an active. I think it's World War II, right?
Right. So, I mean, is this territory for a constitutional amendment? I don't think you're worried about it right now, but I worry about, okay, so if the yardstick is only Congress can declare war, but we don't declare war for 100 years, and yet we're fighting all over the globe, do we need another standard for what this is? And to your point, no, you probably don't have time to have like hearings on Capitol Hill about the thing, but I believe, and maybe they did and I don't know it, but historically, when they're going to do something like this, they bring in congressional leadership and brief them just so that they know this is going down. I think that's been done as a courtesy and probably wasn't done this time. Do we need a constitutional amendment that codifies some sort of mechanism of consultation? Obviously, you're not going to get Congress to declare a war in a case like this. But does Congress have no role in that? Does the president get complete and unfettered say? Right now it does, because we've said Congress only gets to, well, wasn't this the whole debate of the War Powers Act and the
Right.
Tonkin Gulf Resolution? And
Yeah, they got to notify Congress within 48 hours.
well, unless Congress doesn't watch television, I mean,
Right. I know.
I mean, it's 48 hours after the fact, a lot could happen.
Well, I love the idea of an amendment, but what the hell kind of watered down piece of crap amendment are you going to get, 2/3 of the country to agree on? Or what is it, 3/4? What do you have to have for the amendment?
There's at least two paths to a congressional amendment. One can start in Congress, and I think you're right. It's 3/4, and then it has to be ratified by the states. But the states can also stand up an amendment on their own. Two-thirds.
Two-thirds
Okay.
of both chambers of Congress, or 2/3 of state legislatures.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic that we could get that. But could you come up with something that's bipartisan that just says, hey, look, the president has to have the power to act, but if you had an advance consultation with congressional leadership, all you'd have to do is say, put your case in writing in advance. And then after the fact, if it turns out to be BS, then you committed to Congress something that wasn't true, and that's got its own set of consequences. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's got the right to do it, but yeah, I'd like to see some sort of written justification in advance. Not me, but you put it on record. Not that Congress is going to do anything about it. They can't stop it, but that's an obligation. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. No, it does seem reasonable, but I can't imagine anybody ever agreeing to it.
Yeah.
It's too reasonable, kid.
I'm not sure we'll ever amend the Constitution again, honestly, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Because after 2/3 of both chambers of Congress, which I could see you potentially getting to, then you got to get 38 of 50 states to sign off on it.
Interesting. Well, we haven't solved it all, but maybe next week we can do a live version of the podcast, and I'll report from the far outskirts of
That would be great.
Caracas.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, why don't you just sail a little further south? Check up on the folks down there, see how everybody's doing. Do a wellness check, kid.
Yeah, and you can wave hi to me when I'm in that infrared camera holding on to the remnants of our boat, trying to avoid being double tapped by.
Yeah, the vice president of Venezuela asked for a proof of life on Maduro. So I don't know if the social media posts were sufficient proof of life for her or not. Yeah, it's really going to be something we'll continue to follow up and watch here to see what happens. I don't know. It's a lot of hopeful people, but changing out the leaders the first step. Getting the government to change, that's a long road. It certainly seems like.
I mean, if it was that easy, wouldn't they have done it themselves? You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
that's
they
the
shot
thing.
the guy and be done with it. Right.
I get the impression one of the reasons you're able to pull off a Delta Force raid like this is because the first line of defense, they're kind of like stop, no, don't.
Yeah.
And, come on in. You've seen that in cases where people feel under the gun and
I
are
always
pretty
laugh
well ready
like
to
that.
let the guy go.
And, when we invade Iraq at Desert Storm, they're like, well, the elite Republican Guard. And you're like, yeah, they just all threw their weapons down and they surrendered. Like, oh, they're pretty elite. Yeah. Well, hey, one thing you can't say about the Venezuela bit is you can't say that this is, because he's Putin's buddy. I mean, Putin's pissed about this. Maduro is Putin's buddy, so so you got that going for you.
Well, maybe. Well, it's been fun to break it down with you. It is kind of interesting. It's interesting to have a topic where, I mean, I wouldn't say both of us are ambivalent, but neither of us is super gung-ho nor raving mad about, I think we both see that it's kind of a fraught situation, and there's a lot of unsettled elements to this.
But I'm glad to know you're not telling me that you're going to go join a pro-Maduro march of some kind.
Probably not.
That's good.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.